Welcome back to Quantum Code, I'm Martin. In this tutorial, I will show you how to create a clock based on the operating system time in Godot. I'll also cover how to synchronize these clocks with some internet requests so you can secure it in order to give your player daily gifts, for example. So stick till the end, you'll learn interesting stuff. Here we are in Godot with a brand new project. The first thing we want to do is to create the 3D model. I will keep it simple so we don't need to import anything. We have already everything we need in Godot. So let's start by creating a 3D scene. I'll call it clock. Now let's add a child node, which will be a position 3D one. I'll call it hour. Let's add a child node to it, which will be a CSG box. For the width, you want to set it to 1, the height to 0.2, and the depth to 10. Now let's go under transform. We can change the rotation degrees on the x-axis to 90. And we also need to translate the box on the y-axis, and we want to take half the depth, so 5. Let's rename the box hour bar. And now if I take the hour node and I rotate it on the z-axis, as you can see, we can simulate a clock. Now let's duplicate this node, hit Ctrl D, and let's rename this one minutes or minute, and minutes bar for its child. Just go back to the hour bar and let's change the depth to 6 and the translation to 3, which is half of 6. Now we can duplicate the minutes bar and call this one second, and its child second bar. For the second bar, we can change the width to 0.2 and the height to 0.1. I will just rotate each one so we can see the results. Let's add a sphere at the middle so it will hide this part. Like that. I'll call it center, and we can leave it like this, I think. Now I just want to move the bars a little bit because they are all aligned and so they will overlap. So let's move the hour bar right here. And the second bar in front. I will also add a camera node to my scene so I can visualize the clock, but you can just leave your scene like that and place it in another scene in your game, so you can have the clock in another scene which has the camera. Let's save the scene, hit Ctrl S, and I will create a folder called clock1, and I'll save this clock under it. I hit play to test it. We need to zoom out a little bit. Now I hit play to test it. We can zoom out a little bit. So I move the camera right here, and this is looking good. We can change the colors of the bars to have a better design. So you want to select one of them and add a new spatial material and select the albedo and change the color. So I will go to a kind of dark color like that. This is looking good. So now we can move on to the programming part, where we will create a clock based on the operating system time. So let's go to our clock node and we can add a script. I'll call it clock1 and create it. Under the process function, we will use the os.getTime function, so we can test it. We can print the result. So you can see. So if I hit play, as you can see, we have the hour, minute, and second appearing here. It is in a dictionary format. So let's create a variable called time dictionary, time dict, equal os.getTime. And let's create a function called setClock. It will take a parameter. Let's call it t for time. First, let's do it with the hour node. So we take the hour node, we take its rotation degrees, and we will change it on the z-axis, and we set it to minus our time dot hour, and we need to multiply it per 360 and divide it per 12. Now let's do the same for the minutes and the seconds. And we need to divide those ones per 60. Now let's call this function in the process function. So set clock, and we will pass our time dictionary as parameter. Let's hit play, and now as you can see, I have the clock updated with my OS1. There is still a problem, you will see it right away. The minute bar is not continuously moving. It is doing so step by step. It is possible, you can leave it like this if you want, but it is possible to change this. We will do it right now. We need to create a new function like the setClock one. So I'll just copy paste this one and rename it continuous. So right now we need to add our minutes value to the hour, so it will move at each minute. So we do t dot minutes and we divide it per 60.0. You need to do the 60.0 because otherwise it will be an integer division, so it will always be equal to 0 or 1 when you have 60 minutes. Let's do the same for the minute. We need to add the second value, so we do plus t dot second and we divide it per 60.0. Now let's call our new function in the process function and we can test it. I don't know if you can see it, but the minutes bar is moving really slowly, and if we pass to a new minute, there is not a big step. We can only see the hour bar moving a little bit. Now, if you don't want to trust the user, because it is possible to change the OS time, we will create an online clock which will use some requests, and so the hour will be checked with internet. So it is not possible to cheat, for example. I'll take this scene and duplicate it. Let's rename this one clock2. Yes. And I'll drag and drop it. I will create a new folder. Call it clock2 and I'll drag and drop my scene to this new folder. Let's open up this scene. You want to remove the script and add a new one. You can call it clock2. For the online clock, we will use 3 variables. The first one will be a time request. We will use it to make our internet request. Then we will have a local time. Let's set it to 0. And we will also have the current time in a dictionary format. So let's add the hour and set it to 0. Same for the minutes. And for the second. Under the ready function, we will create our request. So let's do time request equal http request.new. And we will add this as a child. Now we want to connect the request completed signal. So time request that connect request completed with self, and we'll create a function called time request completed. Let's create this function so we don't forget it. It will take some parameters. We need the result, the response code, the headers, and the body. Now on the ready function, at the beginning, we want to update our time. So we want to call a function update time, and let's create it. So this function will take care of doing the request. So we have the online time updating. Now under the process function, we want to update our local time. So let's do local time plus equal delta. Now we want to test if our local time is greater than 1. So this means more than 1 second had spent. And so we want to set our local time back between 0 and 1. And so at each second, we want to compute the time. So we will call this function in a test. So if compute time, and this function will update our current time and also return true if we need to update our time with the internet. So in this case, we call update time. Let's just create the compute time function. So let's create our variable result, which will return true or false. We will set this variable to true only if we have 1 more minute. So we will update the time each minute. We don't want to do it each frame like we did with the operating system, because we are doing internet requests, so this is not a good idea. So let's first set it to false. As our local time was greater than 1, we can add 1 to the current time second. So current time that second plus equal 1. Then we need to check if the current time that second is greater or equal than 60. If it is the case, that means we need to update our minute value. So we do current time that second equals 0 and current time that minute equal plus equal 1. And we set our variable r to true, as we want to update our time with a request. We still need to check if we have more than 60 minutes. So if current time that minute is greater or equal to 60, then we set back our current time that minute to 0, and we add 1 to our current time that hour. And last, we need to check if our current time that hour is greater or equal to 24, and we just want to set it back to 0. Now we can return our value, and we're good with the compute time function. Now let's consider our update time and time request completed functions. So this is where we are doing the internet request. Let's create an error variable equal to time request that request. We call the function request, and there we paste the HTTP address. We can just check if we don't have any error. So if error is not equal to OK, so if we have one, we will just push an error, and let's write down an error occurred in the HTTP request, so we can keep track of it. Now this will set up our request, but we still need to take care of it when it is done. So let's create a response variable, and it will be equal to pairs JSON, and we will pass the body that gets string from UTF-8. And we can just start by printing this response so we can see it. If I hit play, as you can see, we have the result here. What we want is the date time, and it is a dictionary, by the way. And we want the date time because we have the time in it. So let's create a variable web time, and it will be equal to response, and we will take the date time out of the dictionary, so it will give us this string. Now we want to cut it to get only the time, so we use substring. We start at character number 11 and we take 8 characters. And then we want to split it with the 2 points character. So we get this out of the request, and then we split it, so we get 19, 33, and 29. Now we can just set our current time. So for example, we start with the hour. Current time that hour equal integer from our string, so integer, and we take our web time, and the hour is in first position, so 0. Now we can duplicate it for the minute and for the second. Now we still need to set the rotation of our clock. So we can go back in our clock1 script and copy paste our set clock continuous function and paste it there. And under the process function, you can just call it. And we just need to pass our current time as a parameter, as it is also a dictionary. I'll just add a print of the response, and I take the date time so I can check and debug, and let's test it. So at the beginning we are doing our first request, as you can see. Now 1 minute has spent, and so we are doing a new request and we have updated the time. This is working perfectly, and thanks to the local time variable we can use a simple trick. We can add this local time variable to our rotation degrees for the second. And if I hit play, as you can see, we have a continuous clock, even the second. Right now our time is computed based on the IP address of the computer or of the user, but we can change this. If you do the request with time zone instead of IP, we have here a big list of all the regions available. There is not everything because there is too much text to show. If you want to have every region, you can use the curl command under Linux to with these parameters, so you can have every region available. But I'll try to copy paste this in the comment section if it's possible. For now, I will just show you with an example. For example, if I change time zone to Africa, Tunis, and I hit play, and I just need to uncomment this and hit play again. As you can see, we have the clock of Tunis, so this is cool. And I can try with another region, and for example with America, Los Angeles, you can see the clock is different. Finally, I will leave a link to the full project. So there is this example with all the clocks from different cities and my own clock. There is also the online clock scene, which you can drag and drop to basically any 3D scene you want, and when you select it, you can change the region. For now it is IP address, but you can select any region in the list, so that's quite useful. This project will be available for my patrons. I recommend you to check it out because I will upload all my projects like this one, so you can get a lot out of it. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and activate the bell so you get notified when the next tutorial is out, and leave a like. See you!